The American presidential election is getting ever closer, and this weekend, former First Lady Michelle Obama spoke at a rally for Kamala Harris, talking about women's reproductive rights. She urged men to do the right thing and vote for Harris rather than Trump, who, many have argued, will restrict abortion rights if he wins.
This is a really powerful moment in history, and I don't think we realise it, and we won't until further down the line, but to be discussing something that both leaders, Trump and Harris, at the moment are so diametrically opposed with, just shows how important Obama making that speech is. Because for so long, the responsibility has always been on women's shoulders. It's such a misogynistic topic, women's healthcare. It's underfunded, it's embarrassing. We've had to deal with coils and injections and pills and shame. And finally, rather than addressing us, because we know all this already, they are turning the spotlight onto the men.
It was quite interesting, wasn't it?
This will affect your wives, your nieces, your daughters. You prepared. It's incredible. But it also just shows just how powerful this subject is and how much it can actually sway, or how much it needs to sway, and how the final line does still come back to the men.
Well, we've talked about it often on here, and I always say it as a mother of a son, I think it's our responsibility to talk to young men about contraception, about women's health, about periods, about the menopause. You know, I had a chat with Jack about the menopause, so I lost my rag one day with him, which was off the scale, and I had to kind of then explain to him, let me tell you about something called the menopause, why mummy's a bit cross today. Yeah. But I think it's important, because I know that Grace, they do a bit of that at school, but you were saying earlier, not really as much as you hoped
I missed that day. But all you did was, there was just a little, like, banana, and you put a condom on it, and that is how you don't get pregnant, and that's all there was. Even down to when I went on the pill, it was just a male doctor, and he went, take that, and it was like a leaflet.
How old were you?
Massive. I was 13, but it wasn't for anything like that. It was for periods. But I got this massive leaflet and I couldn't look through it because it was so big. And they don't tell you stuff like, if you're on antibiotics, you can get it stops the pill working, you get pregnant. It's just something that you're expected to know at any age.
It's on our shoulders once again.
And when it's not, it's your fault as well.
I was surprised to hear that, because I just thought now at school with PSHE or whatever that lesson is that you all have, that they would talk a lot more openly about it. But you're saying that you still felt you were under-informed.
Yeah, and I think it was also just a bit of an awkward topic. Like we were saying earlier, you'd never say you had a period in front of a boy, because it would automatically be gross. There's just such a stigma even now.
But also, PSHE lessons, you can still opt out. Parents can still opt their children out of those, and you don't know how excessive or how much information is going to be passed on. They can touch on it, or they can go the full, medical length, if you like. I think that if we can show men that, their virility, it's not all just about how many children they can father. As we all know, any person can be a father, but it takes a real person, a real man, to be a dad, to hang around and raise that child. I was recently very surprised. My partner, I have huge respect for him. He went and had a vasectomy, which I know many men who have had this, but when I spoke about it with my girlfriends, their reaction really surprised me. Some of them were just, well, what if he goes on and he wants to have children with somebody else? Or does it emasculate him? Or my partner would never do such a thing. And I couldn't believe it, because he came to me and said, the miscarriages, the pills, the injections, your body's done enough. Now it's my turn. So I thought, and all I can say is I'm so proud of him for doing that and showing our friendship group, but most importantly, showing my daughters and our son that actually it is both of us. It's not just down to me, it's both of us. And actually, for him, it was taking the pressure off me and giving my body a much-needed rest, but also just contributing to family life.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised, Colin. Professor Leslie Reagan, she's the Women's Health Ambassador for England, she said women are finding it harder to access contraception now than they did 10 years ago, which I was surprised to learn.
I'm shocked at that.
Yeah, and she said a lot of them have been discouraged by bad experiences, a disjointed system, long delays for procedures such as coil or implant insertion. 8 out of 10 women in the UK feel they're not listened to. But we were talking this morning saying, I mean, back in our day, there was nothing.
Well, my daughter's 23, and anything that she's had that's been a gynecological problem or contraception or whatever, it's amazing, A, how she talks openly about it, her and her partner at such a young age, but also how, you know, she's never had a problem with the NHS and speaking to a doctor. So when I read things like that, I think, you know, I'm sure it does happen for some women.
But you would never have talked to your family, would you?
There is absolutely... I mean, sex and all of that was something that I just never spoke to my mum and dad about it, and we never learnt about it in school back in the day. And at 16, I fell pregnant, and I just kind of joined my sisters, and I didn't tell anybody. I just felt I couldn't tell anybody. I thought they'll be ashamed of me. I'm going to ruin their lives. This, that, and the other. And also back in the day, when you did go for a termination, it was full anaesthetic, and you had to stay in hospital. And at 16, I'm at the hospital going, I can't stay. I'm not allowed to stay out. I wasn't allowed to stay out. And I'm thinking, I won't be able to say to my mum, I'm staying out, because she'll ask questions. So I had to sign myself out after the anaesthetic. And then, stupidly, I'd worn trousers going that I couldn't get on afterwards. And luckily, the guy who was the father was fantastic.
So he went with
me.
you?
He went with me, and then he said, don't worry, and he went out and bought me a lovely dress to wear home. Of course, my mum went, you didn't go out in that dress today. So on the spot, I had to go, yeah, I think I've caught a bug, and we went for a meal, and I threw up over my trousers, so we went and bought me a dress. And then she's going, why are you so pale? And the doctors, before I left, were saying, you really shouldn't have signed yourself out because you could die, you could hemorrhage, and you could die overnight. And as a 16-year-old, I was more scared of upsetting, bringing shame, ruining their career. Just everything was much more scarier than what I felt I had to do. And that's why nowadays, and one thing I've learned, and I never told my family till my first autobiography was coming out, and I thought, I want to be really, you know, truthful in this autobiography. So it's then I had to tell my sisters that all those years ago I'd gone through that, and they were so upset because they were like, you could have told us. And I said, but at 16, you're just so scared. I didn't know who to tell. And they were brilliant about it. More upset that they hadn't been told, but equally it made me more determined that with Kira and my boys, that all of those subjects, there is nothing they can do that I won't be there to help them through. Whether I'm, you know, or inside thinking, I can't believe he did that. But equally today, I think there is less of an excuse to do it today because there is so much information out there, you know, and they do talk about it. You know, Kira's had boyfriends go and buy her, you know, she's gone, I've come on my period, will you go and buy me some pads? And these lads go, yeah, no problem. And I'm sitting there thinking, the thoughts of asking a boy to do that when I was younger is awful. But I think it's great nowadays, and I would hope that because I've learnt what I went through, that they will always come to me for whatever, because I'll never push them away or be afraid. Oh, I'm shaking now.
Thank you.
Bit shaky now.
I know. Have some of that gin. Go on. OK.